This is ThinkTech Hawaii. Community matters here. Bingo, we're back. ThinkTech Hawaii. Hawaii, the state of clean energy. Provided to you by the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, fabulous organization, sort of the center of energy policy in the state of Hawaii. Okay, and this is Hawaii, the State of Energy. It's our flagship energy show. It's every Wednesday at 4 p.m. So stay tuned every Wednesday. And today we're dealing with the feds. We like to deal with the feds.
Good.
It's a patriotic thing, you know.
Yes, I like that.
The USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, 3 VIPs today. From my left, we have Gigi Jones. She is the State Director of Rural Development. Operative word rural. We're going to hear more about that in Hawaii and the Western Pacific. Next to her, we have Tim O'Connell. He is the Western Region coordinator. And he was in Hawaii, but now he's in Portland, Oregon. But he visits Hawaii on a regular basis because Hawaii is part of his jurisdiction.
Correct.
Right? And next to him is Don Ate. He is the Community Program Director for Hawaii. And this is all totally appropriate because we're going to cover today funding for water and wastewater services in Hawaii's rural communities. And we're going to ask this question: could projects in Hawaii get funding from USDA's Water and Waste Disposal Loan and Grant Program or programs? And the answer is a resounding yes. Gigi,
Hopefully.
tell us where your organization fits in the landscape of, you know, what is a huge agency in the country, the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
So rural development, we focus on rural communities throughout the islands, and we focus on building cities from the ground up, communities from the ground up, from infrastructure, businesses, community facilities, housing, affordable housing, which is very important over here, and utilities and broadband. So we have a lot of programs. We have over 40 programs that span a large area. And so what might fit for some might not fit for others, but that's the beauty of having so many programs.
Why is there a policy focus on rural? Do we care about rural? Why don't we just have them come to the city and live where everybody else does?
It's a history lesson. If people do ask why rural development's involved in these programs, because most people think when they go to the airport, USDA inspects things, but we actually were a bank, and we finance things, and we actually got our start in the Great Depression back in the 1930s when banks failed, and farmers couldn't get credit to buy seed and fertilizer to get their crops grown. And so Congress created a program to provide credit for these farmers, and then they realized that these farmers had inadequate housing, so they came up with a loan program to give them housing loan program. They also realized that these cities and towns had inadequate water and wastewater facilities, so they created a loan program to take care of those facilities. They didn't have electric, they didn't have telephone in the rural areas, and so of course we migrated from a agrarian-based economy to a rural-based economy, so we're still in the game as far as our programs. That's where we got our start, and that's why USDA is in the business of helping rural communities.
That's really touching. It comes out of FDR.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's really something, and it's still alive, and there's still a federal policy interest in keeping rural communities healthy.
Absolutely.
You know, and I can see that on a number of levels. I mean, the natural drift, of course, is to cities and away from rural, and surely that's happened. But we need to keep our rural areas alive, and this is one big way to do it.
We're also seeing the reverse of that. As the generations get into a city, they want to go back to their roots. And so that's where our job creation, our economic development programs, and our broadband programs are critical to help with those communities retain that rural prosperity.
Yeah, and why are you guys in it? I mean, did you make a conscious choice? Did you make a conscious choice you wanted to be involved in things rural for USDA?
Well, you know, I was very lucky to get this position. I've always been an advocate for our communities here in Hawaii, and I've done a lot of grassroots efforts. And so the beauty of rural development is the many programs that we have to help our communities. And we're all throughout the islands as well as the Western Pacific. So
There's a
felt
lot
very
of rural in the
fortunate.
Western Pacific.
There's a lot of rural here too.
That's true fact.
Yeah.
You can visit any
It
neighbor
is.
island.
Yes.
So does that mean, Don, that you get to travel to all these places? And can I come with you?
Sure, very much so.
On your budget, right? Okay.
We have an
Oh, Jeff,
expansive
that was
reach.
yours.
Oh, darn.
No, we have an
So
expansive reach.
where do you go?
So we have locations in Palau, Guam, Saipan, American Samoa, of course, throughout every island within Hawaii, and within the Federated States of Micronesia as well.
So on a given trip, take us through a day in the life of Don Ete. What is it like? You get to Palau, what do you do there?
I sit on the beach and drink
Oh,
margaritas.
there it is.
You're not supposed to tell him that. No, no.
Gigi didn't know that until now.
I didn't hear that.
We conduct a lot of outreach, and we meet with clients as well, so it's kind of multifaceted position. We have ongoing developments and projects, so in the development world, there's always issues that need to be addressed. So we do that, and we do site visits because we want to understand our clients and our projects, because being a lender, and really our mission is to help communities, we do want to make sure that the projects are moving forward and it doesn't turn into a federal bureaucracy. And then we do outreach just like this, so we can promote and, you know, just
You
educate
have to
everybody on
connect
what we
with the
do.
people
Exactly.
and make them aware of the projects.
That's right.
But when you get to Palau on a given Monday morning, you know, Gigi said there were 40 different initiatives here, or
Right.
40 programs anyway. So which program comes first when you get there? Or do you just go through at random, maybe spin the dice or something to find out which program you're going to do?
We understand our markets, so we've been out in the region for 30 plus years. I lived in the islands for over 20 years. I originally got my start as a Peace Corps volunteer in Pohnpei. Worked with Bank of Hawaii, and so I think RD's been smart to hire certain, you know, people with the skill sets and understand the market, because every island and community is different. So what might work best for Palau might not work best for Saipan.
So you're going to make a choice. You're going to make an informed choice about what program fits what area.
Kind of. We go and we meet with the community, we meet with leaders, and we have these types of discussions. But we always ask questions to understand what their needs are, and that helps us take us to maybe talking about programs that can help them.
Okay. You know, one thing you didn't mention is actually growing food.
You know, we
Is-
have
where does that
a little bit to do with that, but actually rural development is very little agriculture.
USDA is a very large agency with multiple sub-agencies, if you will. So our agency focuses on economic and infrastructure development,
I see.
not food
Some
safety.
other agency?
Yeah.
So you mentioned before, it sticks in my brain, this kind of thing, $4 billion.
4 billion with a B.
That's just one
Is
program.
that for rural development, or is that for the whole budget for everything?
No, that
That's
is,
just one program out of 40.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Only one program out of the 40.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the $4 billion is the amount of money that you invest and grant for purposes of developing rural areas, is that it?
Well, for water and wastewater.
Just water and
That's
wastewater?
just water and wastewater,
Wow.
and it's actually over $4 billion.
So are you
in
loaned up
loans
now,
and grants.
Gigi? I mean, you get it all out there, is it all
No,
deployed?
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. We
We're
want to
trying
get
to
the
do
word out.
outreach. We're trying to get the people to
We
know.
would like people in Hawaii to listen and think about the needs of their communities, and then contact us, and then hopefully we can help them out.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's talk about the program and how it works. I'll make this up. I am in a rural area, and I don't have enough water. You know, maybe my well, I hate to say it this way, my well ran dry.
I knew you were going to say that.
Or you're on catchment.
Right, maybe I have catchment, maybe, who knows, maybe climate change changed the way the water works, or the rain works, and my catchment work, who knows? Who knows what it is? Maybe there's a contamination issue, we don't know. Maybe it's bog, you know? So you guys can help me. You can help me build something new in order to get more water. Take me through, Tim, can you do this? Can you take me through a scenario where I come to you and say, I got a problem with water in my little town, say in the Big Island, help me. What can you do for me?
Well, we don't help individuals, but we help groups of people. So we probably, if it was part of a subdivision, and there's probably a homeowners association, we'd probably go to the homeowners association and ask them, okay, this is a program, is this a need, and can we help you with it? And actually, it's a development process, so it would take a while and some information back and forth in order to get to a point where whether they'd be eligible or not for the program. And if we're not ones with the funding, then part of my job is to help find the other resources that are out there, because there's other federal agencies, there's other state agencies, and there are other nonprofit associations that have resources to put into this, because oftentimes it's not a lack of funding that's a problem, it's a lack of connecting to the right funding source is the problem. And rural development, not only are we funders, but we put linkages together as well and help meet the needs of the community that we might not be able to help, because we can't help everybody.
Okay, understood. It's community we're talking about.
Right.
So if you say, okay, I've looked at this, and you guys are going to work cooperatively with the people in that community, you're not going to say, you know, when you file your application, we'll talk to you. You're going to actually help them file the application. So now I put my application in, looks valid, looks like, you know, it's a worthy project. What happens then? Is the check in the mail?
Not quite.
No. There's an underwriting process. There's an environmental review that needs to be done.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, to make sure we're not contaminating, you know, the area and things of that nature. So there's a due diligence process. And after underwriting and approval, then yeah, the check is issued per se in the sense that.
Yeah, basically construction starts at
That's
that
right.
point.
Construction. Somebody's
Yeah, right.
letting a contract now.
Yeah,
Who lets the contract? USDA, the program, or the
applicant.
community?
The
The
applicant.
Applicant,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, we have standards that they have to follow in order to make sure it's an open and competitive bidding process, so it doesn't go to Uncle Joe down the road who doesn't have the resources. But we do have that process that they do have to go through a competitive process in order to get the
To get
bids
the
done.
the contractor.
Right.
And I suppose you're also going to be around to monitor the work under the contract.
Yep.
So it doesn't go south somewhere.
We are partners generally for up to 40 years because that's how long the loan is.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, okay, so this is a water project, I just made that up. But suppose it's a wastewater project, because that's also important for the health of a community. How does that differ, if at all?
It doesn't.
No.
Doesn't differ. Same process, just different project.
Do you find that this kind of issue, wastewater, comes up in the same community, or is it a different situation? In other words, one community will have a water, a water requirement, another will have a wastewater requirement, or they both happen in the same place?
It's all over. I
I
mean,
mean, generally, if they don't have water, they have sewer needs as well. I think the uniqueness that I'm seeing now is where EPA is going around and finding families and households because they still have cesspools and they want them to convert. So certain communities, the counties are stepping up to help the families, even though it's an individual household problem. Some of the counties are actually stepping in to be the borrower to develop, the sewer system that's needed to get them off the cesspool, and then it's no longer an EPA violation.
So, here's a hard question. Grant, loan. Loan, grant. Borrower, grantee. Qu'est-ce que c'est, this is French, qu'est-ce que c'est la différence?
I'll let Don answer that.
Yeah, other than French.
What's the difference? How does it work differently?
Well, basically, the loan part is the base of our program. The grant is used to buy down the cost of a system for rural areas, knowing that there's inherently higher costs in that rural system versus an urban system. And so we generally work with low-income communities as well. So we look at the medium household income in the area, we look at the cost of comparable systems in the area, and our grant can buy down the cost of the system, so the water user rate to the rural household isn't much more than comparable to the area.
I get it.
So
You can have both.
You do have, it's
Is it, given project, part of it can be a loan, part of it can be a grant,
Correct.
and the buy down are like
Absolutely.
a cost of living kind of,
right.
a special allowance because it's more expensive to do it in that location.
Yeah, because there's less
Absolutely.
efficiency of, because you're usually spread out more or less users on a system.
Yeah.
So that's the ability that we have, is to buy it down with that grant component.
Okay, so how, I'm out there. I'm out there behind camera one. I'm watching, and I'm thinking, oh, this could be good for my little town, Big Island, Kauai, whatever. And so how much money is available to me? I mean, what are the chances? Oh, you can answer this one. What are the chances that I'm going to get a loan if I think I need a loan? Is it 100%?
Never 100%, but
Yeah, there's no guarantees, but I mean, it really comes down to eligibility. So if your system's eligible for our assistance right now, we have $4 billion that we're trying to get out the door. So if you came in, let's say 3 months ago, and we could get the environmental done, there's an excellent chance, if not 100% certainty today, that we could be able to fund your project. So funding today, availability is not the issue.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's turnkey. I don't have to put any money in myself. The cost of the project, including the, environmental, examination, whatever may be required, that's all covered by the loan-grant support you're going to give me?
It can be, but there's upfront costs because we don't advance any money until after all that's done. So
Oh.
the applicant has to have the wherewithal
Ah.
to able to upfront that. But the good thing is that we have a couple of grant programs that actually can help underwrite that to begin
The
with.
upfront cost.
Right, because usually we require an engineering report and an environmental report because that's what the basis of our decision-making for making a loan or grant is based on that information, which is developed by a professional engineer and a firm that knows the environmental component.
I'm sorry, I'm limiting myself to Hawaii with this question, and maybe we should talk about the South Pacific Islands too, but, one of the issues that would come up in a constitutional convention, if adopted by the voters in November, is the need to have subsidiary jurisdictions in Hawaii, because we have the state, we have the counties, but no town per se. None of these rural areas you're talking about is a legal entity, a legal state entity. And so right now it's all unincorporated, very loose goose kind of organizations. And if I go to this little town, my hypothetical town in the Big Island, I'm going to run into a bunch of people, but there's no mayor, there's no, council or anything like that. There's nobody, it's amorphous. So how do you deal with that? I mean, who do you speak with? Who is your, to use the word client, who is your client in the little town? Do you have to have a sort of a town meeting all the time? Who do I speak to? Who's in charge anyway?
Well, actually, you hit the nail on the head because we don't have that in Hawaii. And we've always tried to shoehorn mainland programs into Hawaii's unique situation. And we've done it, and we've done it very successfully because we have a good staff that are thinking outside the box.
Yeah. How do you do it? Yeah.
Well, we go by the CDP, Citizens Designated Place, as a definition for a starting point. And for some of the programs that Don's working on now, the county is the applicant because they are the county jurisdiction that has the authority to do it.
Wow.
But at the same time, we have the ability to work with nonprofits that have the authority and the ability to make loans.
And
too.
they are entities for sure. Yeah.
Right. So we work with both. But it would be easier to work with the city and town of Hilo if there was such a thing. Or the town of KL if there is such a thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But there's not. So we've been at this for a long time, so we've gotten to where we are by being creative, and we're going to continue to be creative.
Wow. I think it's more than creativity. I think what you're doing goes beyond that. It goes to, and you don't find a lot of examples of this in the world today, it goes to governmental kindness. You're faithful to your mission of way back when with FDR. You're going to help these people no matter what. You're not going to let silly things stand in the way. This is very good. Yeah.
Well, we're lucky that we're an agency that actually helps improve people's lives.
Yeah. So how long does it take for me to get my project approved, funded, and finished, on the average?
On a good day?
Yeah, or a good year, as the case may be.
I'll let Don answer that.
Yeah, it takes a while, but most of it's the burden's on the applicant, because they have to do the design specs, they have to do the public comments periods where they get feedback from the local community. Does the community want this? If there is a loan component, there's going to be an assessment for somebody to repay that loan. So there's a number of steps. When it comes to us and the environmental is done, I just did something recently with the County of Hawaii, and our underwriting from when they submitted the application, the underwriting took less than a month.
Okay. I had a question popped in my mind that sort of synthesized some of these points, and I'm going to ask it as a cliffhanger because we have to take a break now. My cliffhanger question, which you can deal with after, is loans, especially for substantial sums, require loan documents. Somebody has to sign the loan documents. When we come back from this short break, we're going to find out who, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Gigi. We'll be right back. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, raising public awareness.
Living in this crazy world, so caught up in the confusion, nothing is making sense for me and you. We've got to give a little love, have a little hope, make this world a little better. Try a little more, harder than before, let's do what we can.
Hi, I'm Bill Sharp, host of Asian Review here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Join me every Monday afternoon from 5 to 5:30 Hawaii Standard Time for an insightful discussion of contemporary Asian affairs. There's so much to discuss, and the guests that we have are very, very well informed. Just think, we have the upcoming negotiation between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, the possibility of Xi Jinping, the leader of China, remaining in power forever. We'll see you then.
Okay, we're back. I told you. Okay, and this is Gigi Jones, Tim O'Connell, and Don Ate. And we had a cliffhanger question. I always enjoy that. So we have loans. I mean, grants are no problem. You give them a check. Or you pay an expense. Okay. So, but for loans, you got to have loan documents because there is inherent in the concept an undertaking and and a commitment to repay. Who signs the documents?
Well, it depends on the customer, but if it were a county, we would have the county sign. If it were a nonprofit, whoever heads up the nonprofit. So it depends, but whoever the leader of that agency or organization is, they would
The
sign.
person you're negotiating with or the organization?
Yes.
Okay. And there's no personal guarantees because this is organizational, it's not personal yet. So suppose, what kind of terms do you give them? Do you give them a
Great
year,
terms.
2, 5, 10, 20, what? What do you give them?
40?
Up to 40. Up to 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
Wow. So let me guess and say that the bigger the project, the longer the repayment. Am I right?
Well, 40 is the max.
Okay, that by law
Yeah.
or by regulation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but if it's a big project, you're likely to give them more, or are they all 40 years?
Up to 40.
Up to.
Up to 40.
So
So what's the low end?
It all depends on the underwriting and affordability.
Okay, you mean whether they can afford it?
Yeah, well, and how much of a burden the individual household can assume, if it's a loan especially.
Okay. Now, I suppose out of that same kindness that we have identified with the USDA, you are a picture of kindness, Gigi.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Both of you.
You don't
both
know
you
me
guys
yet. No,
do.
I'm just kidding.
So, suppose this entity that just signed the papers defaults. They do not make the payment schedule. They go south, as it were. What happens then?
Well, I've only been at this job for so long, so it hasn't happened on my watch. But it does happen. It does.
Yeah, it hasn't happened within Hawaii as far as I'm aware of. But it's a very unique program because obviously the collateral is not traditional collateral like a commercial building that we could
Right,
just
sure.
take possession and resell it. So we work with the entity. I think worst case scenario, and I've never seen it, the county is going to declare bankruptcy, if you will.
Well, that's right. A small subdivision can go bankrupt. A state cannot go bankrupt, but a lesser
Right.
subdivision can
So
go
I mean,
bankrupt.
we have the ability to also work it out.
Yeah.
And that's generally the case, I think, that they would work it out with whatever entity, and if they can't, they'd probably transfer that loan to an entity that could, because that water system is going to be there. We can't, I mean, if you foreclose on someone's car, you take the car.
You're not
You
going
Yeah.
can't take up water
you
lines.
can't
Correct.
do that. Yeah. So
So
it's there.
we work with the applicant and the entity and, try to work it out. There's we have a servicing options available, but, if worst case is probably transfer it to an entity or put it up for sale to someone to come in and run it.
I mean, these projects are large enough. There's usually enough economies of scale that if 5 people leave their homes and abandon homes, it's not going to make a difference in debt service.
So you do negotiate. I mean, after the fact, you do.
Well, we work together.
You work with them. You work with debtors.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
I think as a practical matter, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I have to ask you this question, Tim. You cover a number of states, right?
I do.
You do Gigi too, I think. And my question is though, what's your favorite state?
Aloha.
Answer wisely.
I spent 26 years here. It's hard to not
And
have a
why
favorite.
is it? Is USDA able to do more here for some reason? Is it working here to the point where it gives you this kind of psychic gratification of doing this program here? Tell me.
Well, like I said a little while ago, I think we've had to take and be creative in the approach that we take to take a mainland program that's designed for the Midwest and deliver it here in Hawaii. And so that's been the challenge. And so I take that uniqueness to other states and say, look what we did in Hawaii. And they say, oh, that's pretty cool. We'll try it here too. Because we have had to take something that didn't work or didn't seem to work and make it work. And that's with partnerships with other federal agencies. That's partnership with our counties and other entities. And if we can't fund it, we'll try to find the funding somewhere else or the technical assistance to get to that point.
Yeah, well, that's the benefit of having somebody who goes from state to state and has a bunch of states, because then you can compare notes. You can do idea arbitrage between one place and another. Take your experience here and apply it there. It makes the program work better if you do that. Yeah.
They might get tired of me hearing, but when I go into like Wyoming and say, this is what we did in Hawaii, and that's like, but that's my only point of
They
reference.
roll their eyes, right? Well, another thing that we're going to be focusing on is holding roundtables, and that's where people within the communities will come together and have a place at the table to discuss the needs of that community or other communities as well. And I always find when you get like-minded individuals that want to serve their communities and help them, you get them around on the table and they generate some great ideas. So we're definitely going to be planning within the next 2 weeks a roundtable to discuss the water and environmental programs.
So is this I can visualize the roundtable, but is this a roundtable with representatives from all islands, or one island only, or one neighborhood? I mean, how are you gonna pick, or how are you gonna ensure that you have a representation that goes beyond just one neighborhood?
I think we could probably have representatives from each island. I think that would be.
Well, we do have broadband capability, and we've.
You have the meeting on broadband.
We could.
Well, we can actually probably broadcast.
Yeah.
Because we've worked in previously, like when we've worked on Maui, we've actually brought in Molokai when we've worked with the UH system, because they have a pretty good system of connecting. So again, working with our partners to be creative in how we deliver the message, because, not like the mainland, you can't get here cheaply. And for a meeting, it's nothing to drive 4 hours in the mainland to go somewhere.
Right.
Versus coming here,
so,
and the
we
cost
use
is a lot
Zoom
less.
for remote. We use
Right.
Skype for remote, and there's all kinds of remotes now coming into the marketplace. So it's perfectly reasonable. Years ago, say 20 years ago, the state of Hawaii had a lot of trouble with dealing with remote, now, but now
That
we
was
should not have any problem at all.
called
Great. Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah. So I guess I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who might avail themselves of your programs, and I'd like to know how ubiquitous are your programs right now? I mean, they've existed for a while. Can you tell me how many loans, how much loan money and grant money is out there in the community? That's my first part. I'll warn you about my second part is what do you see in the future? I mean, if people see this, Gigi, and they love it, and they want it, and the phone rings off the hook,
Love it. That's what I'm here for.
what's going to happen? Can you handle it?
I can handle it. Please contact us. We have a very capable staff, and under Secretary Perdue, we're very customer focused, and I think hopefully we can handle the phone calls. So.
Yeah.
But as far as programs and availability, our housing program, historically, we would inject about $300 to $350 million a year into the state of Hawaii, into the economy.
That's new money every year.
That's new money
housing.
just between our guaranteed housing program and our direct program. And that's just one example. Community facilities, it's kind of up and down, depends on the size of the project and the number of projects. So in community facilities, I know we've done $100 million years in the past, where we financed
So you think it's going to go up? Can it go up?
Available funding is going up. And right now we're trying to hire more staff. So
That's why we're here together today.
Yeah.
And with our community facilities, in the 90s, we went from having about 200 million to this year's 2.8
2.8 billion.
billion. So it has grown, and
that's-
historically more funding every
Yeah.
year.
So clearly a policy choice has been made to support rural communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
We said before early on, and I really would like your thoughts on this, that, in the world today, people migrate to cities, they migrate away from rural, although there's a certain amount of, going back home, going back where you
Yep.
began, but mostly I think the demography would show that it's toward the city rather than toward. So the question is, is this kind of program, not only the water and the water, wastewater program, but the kind of programs you're talking about, the non-growing farm type programs, the infrastructure programs to build and support rural communities. I don't know about other states, but I'll ask about Hawaii. Is it working? Is it keeping people on the farm? I mean, on the rural community? Is it building rural communities so that people have a better life? Or are they leaving anyway, brain drain style? Give me a handle on which way the wind is blowing with respect to this kind of community.
Well, I know in the mainland, the trend seems to be reversing, where people are leaving the cities and they're going back out to, the rural communities and the suburbs and things like that because of all the issues with so many people living in a concentrated area. And we're there to help. We're not necessarily the final solution for everything.
It's an element in the policy decision, isn't it? You want people to stay in rural communities or return to them. You want to make them more livable. This is part of, without water, they're not so livable.
Well, we want them to thrive. We want jobs to be created. And I think one of the things that we work on is access to broadband. Because when you give a rural community access to broadband, it opens up
Definitely.
so many
Definitely.
opportunities,
Yeah, that's really magic.
educationally and professionally. Yeah, we've got distance learning, telemedicine grants,
Yeah.
and we've
So you're
got,
doing a lot of that.
Oh,
I know it's not our
absolutely.
topic today, but you're doing a lot of that.
No, we absolutely do that. And I would love it if people would come and either give us a call or visit our website because, the programs are extensive.
You read my mind, Gigi, because I wanted
You
to
were
ask
gonna
you
say
that
that,
here in the
weren't
last
you?
minute. How do they, how do they find the money? How do they find these programs? How do they apply? Who do they contact? What is your personal cell phone number?
Well, let's see, 5555. It really is. Shh, don't tell anybody. But they can go to rd.usda.gov, and we have a very user-friendly site with all of our programs. And if they have any questions, they can always give us a call at 933-8300. And
we have an office on every island.
we do.
So the
yeah.
communities are
Okay.
small
We do have
enough that,
offices.
In the
on every
major
island.
cities like Lihui or Hilo or,
yeah,
on
Maui.
So, okay, so we're at a time, we're almost out of time, and there's camera one with a red light over there. And I'd like you guys, in turn, to leave our viewing audience with the message you want them to take away from this discussion. Okay? Wait, Gigi, we're going to do these guys first. Okay? Okay, Don, what message? Tell them out there, tell them.
Well, that's I don't know. We're here to help and serve our local communities, and we encourage everybody to come and talk to us and get more information.
All right, Tim?
we have money and we have money to spend and we'd like to see those people come in and again, we're about rural prosperity.
Money, you got it?
Money. Yep.
Money's good. Okay, Gigi, what's your message?
Well, I would invite the people in your community to sit down and talk about what you need and identify those needs, and then hopefully come see us, and hopefully we can help them out.
Great to talk with you guys.
Thank you
Gigi,
so
You too.
Tim,
Thank
Don,
you.
thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.